stay up there if I put you there. Yep. Stay. Ooh. Too bad that's not green. I could use a green screen. I don't know what I'd use a green screen for. It just seems fun to play around with. I did tell myself I was going to get back into painting. I may have told myself that about 10 years ago, so I think it's safe to assume at this point that I will not, in fact, be getting back into painting, maybe in another 10 years. So the question now becomes, what do I do with these canvases? And if you're at all familiar with the content of this channel, I think the answer is bloody obvious. Crochet. The answer is crochet. But what exactly will we crochet? Well, the other night I just happened to embark on an inspiration journey. Yes, inspiration journey sounds much more epic than I wasted hours of my life scrolling through Pinterest. But anyway, during the course of my inspiration journey, I found myself revisiting the same idea time and time again. The moss rug. I don't know if these are popular right now or if I fell into an algorithmic rabbit hole of my own creation, but I saw a lot of these. And now I want to make one. That's just how Pinterest works. Except I'm going to be making a few changes. Rather than creating a rug, I'll be making a wall hanging, and instead of using moss, I'm going to use succulents. Partially because I really like succulents, but mostly because the thought of having to brush out an entire canvas's worth of yarn in order to turn it into moss makes me want to gouge out both my eyes with a crochet hook. So succulents it is, or at least it will be, once I manage to scrounge up the appropriate colour yarn. I need to give past me a high five for having the foresight to sort all this yarn into colours a couple of weeks ago. I've had to re-record this section because the audio in the original version was just horrendous. To reiterate what I'm saying here, I collected all of the green yarn that was in my possession. I then proceeded to remove any of the skeins that had sort of yellowish undertones just because I wanted to work exclusively with green yarn that had more blue undertones. I mean, it's more my vibe. Then I just emphasised how many succulents I was going to need to make. Turns out I vastly underestimated how many that was going to be. Poor naive Parsley. She has no idea how many succulents are in her future. So many succulents. That's not your yarn. No. No. Give me that. Give me that. Should I make a cat wig? What do you reckon, boo? I think that's a no. I think that's a no. Dear Diary, it's been 84 years since I started making succulents. Or at least it bloody feels that way. I've made this many so far. How many is this? No idea. I haven't bothered to count. Should probably do that at some point. But for now, I'm just going to keep making succulents. Anyway, so welcome to the floor. I'm sitting down here today because The weather has been disgusting. We are at 95% humidity here today, and it's been raining continuously for like the last 3 days. So I'm feeling a little bit like a bloated, gelatinous blob, and everything just aches. And for whatever reason, sitting on the floor like this is the most comfortable. So that's what I'm going to do until it's no longer comfortable, at least. So we're just gonna be down here for a little while, making more succulents. I think it's about time I got off the floor now. It's gonna take me like 10 minutes to get up. I decided against assembling these as I went, and I am now very much regretting that decision. At this point, I have been crocheting succulents for about 3 months. Granted, the majority of those succulents were completed in the last 2 weeks, but this is what I've got so far. I have no idea how many succulents are actually in this bag. I just know that this bag is bloody full. So I think before I crochet anymore, it's time to A, count them, but B, lay them out on my canvas so I can sort of get a general idea of how many more I need to crochet. And also I can determine which colours I need to continue crocheting in, because I've got a lot of light green just looking at the bag like this. So I think I need to throw a few more dark green succulents into the mix. That's not the best angle, but it's going to have to do. Succulent time. I have crocheted, I counted them, I've crocheted almost 300 at this point. And then now I've got to figure out how I want to arrange these. I did sketch out a couple of ideas. Didn't particularly like any of those. I was going to then try some on my tablet, but I may have forgotten that back home, so I tried to do it on the laptop with just the mouse and keyboard. Did not go well. I'm not good at drawing with a mouse. And because my drawing skills leave something to be desired, I think I'm just going to wing it and arrange these however I feel like it on the canvas here. It's taken 20 minutes just to sort the bloody things. Where do I even start with this? I'm going to need to crochet more succulents, aren't I? I thought 300 might have been enough, but I don't think so. My first idea was to have like waves or lines of succulents, but I think that will look a bit too symmetrical for what I want this to be. Normally, I like a bit of symmetry, but in this case I think it'll be a detriment to the kind of look I'm going for. Instead, I'm just going to try random blobs. I'm going to keep the colours together, I'll group them together and just have random blobs all over the canvas. That's plan B. Let's try plan B. It could use a little bit more work, but I'm actually pretty happy with how this is looking. I'm going to have to crochet some more succulents, which I was fairly certain that would be the case. But thankfully I don't have to crochet as many as I feared. More succulents, here we come. I have crocheted about 50 or 60 additional succulents, and as you can see, I still don't have enough. I'm not going to worry about crocheting anymore at this stage. Instead, I'm going to attach the ones I already have because I haven't really laid them out properly. I've sort of just chucked them on there, so some of them are now on the floor, but some of them are like layered on top. But I think if I start assembling this, I will get a better idea of how many more I actually need to make. Originally, I was going to not sew these down, but sort of tie them off at the back. That's why I've left yarn tails on all these succulents. But honestly, my cat's trying to get into a drawer. Boo! Out you go. Bye. I just had to go put a stop to that nonsense. Boo, she knows how to open certain drawers and certain doors. She's like those bloody raptors from Jurassic Park. Anyway, what was I saying? I think I was talking about assembly. I'm not going to sew these down. Instead, I'm just going to get out my glue gun and glue them on. That's just the easiest option at this point. That also means I'm going to have to cut off all these tails and waste quite a bit of yarn, which I'm not happy about, but I can add to my scrap bin and use it as stuffing or for some other purpose later on. That's it. That was the last succulent I have to glue down, at the moment at least. But I'm going to give it a break for now because I've been working on this for about 12 hours today. So I'm going to come back and see if I can finish it tomorrow. Progress update, and excuse the noise if you can hear the air conditioner on in the background. It is so humid here. We've had weeks of just high humid weather, like in the high 90s, and it's disgusting. So apologies for the noise if you can hear that. But I have glued down all of my succulents. Oh, this thing is a lot heavier than it looks. Let me put it back here. So all of my succulents are glued down at this point, and I am incredibly pleased with how this has turned out. I really like how it looks. I wasn't expecting to like it this much. If anything, I probably could have arranged my colours a little bit more, well, in a little bit of a more aesthetically pleasing fashion, but it's supposed to be a random collection of moss, and I think I achieved that. While I could call it quits here, I mean, technically this is finished. I have my succulents all on the canvas. That's what I wanted to accomplish. However, I reckon this needs a few little additions, something to give it a pop of colour, maybe a few interesting features just to add to the overall look. It's not bad. It could be better. So I'm going to torture myself a little bit more. I'm going to drag this project out further. And I think I'm going to add not many, just a few little details to this. I've crocheted myself a bunch of bits, probably too many, but at this point I would rather have too many than not enough. Final step in this project is going to be to attach these. Hopefully that won't take too long. So that's what it's looking like so far. I'm actually not loving the flowers. I wanted a pop of colour, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if I actually like it or not. There's a part of me that goes, yeah, the colour looks nice, but then there's another part of me that goes, nah, it just doesn't quite fit in. I'm going to continue putting this thing together, and I'm just going to bring you guys back when it's finished. It's finished. It's finally finished. Check it out. Is that all in the frame? Probably not. Let me put it back here. This has been a journey, this project. I have been working on this on and off for about 4 months. Granted, and I think I mentioned this earlier, most of the project was completed in the last month or so, but still, this has been on my mind for about 6 months, and I am so happy not only to see it completed, but with how it turned out. I'm glad I took the time to add the details. The mushrooms, love them. Love the stringy bits. The flowers, I did mention before, and I am still on the fence about those. I will look at this sometimes and go, those flowers look so good. And then other times I will look at it and think, nah, they don't really match with that at all. They are glued down like the rest of the pieces, but if I change my mind, I can always remove them, or if I change my mind in the other direction, I can add some more. As for the other sort of minor criticism I would have preferred to have crocheted and attached the detail pieces, or specifically the mushrooms, first, because as they are now, I had to glue them on to my succulents, and that's not the most stable. So I would have preferred to glue those directly onto the canvas and then shape my succulents around those. It just would have been a little bit easier and not so much of a mess. I don't know if you can see how messy it is, but not so much of a mess with the glue gun. But alas, I didn't think of adding details until after all the succulents were assembled, so it was a bit late by then. So yeah, we are done. After about 6 months of thinking of this project virtually non-stop, it is done. I am excited to move on to the next project, which is actually, it's going to be, well, if it works out the way I'm planning for it to work out, it's going to be in a sort of similar vein. It's got similar themes, but I'm not going to give away any more than that. If you are interested in making your own succulent wall or succulent varieties, the pattern for specifically the hanging wall succulent version will be out on my Patreon, but I'm also going to create a second version which includes patterns for both a little pot and the hanging basket, so you can place your succulents and your vines in those if you would prefer that than making a whole huge ass canvas. Final thing before I go here, I am still taking applications for the hookup, which should be starting either next week or the week after. If you're not sure what the hookup is, there will be a link down in the description, both to the video explaining what it is, but also a link to the Google form so you can apply to participate in the hookup. Thank you to all of my patrons for your continued support. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Like the video if you enjoyed it, share it if you think it's worth sharing, and I will see you all next week with another video.